We want to educate our business owners, especially small business owners, or what to truly look at. Everybody wants to run out and make pitch decks. Well, investors don't buy pitch decks. Let me just be clear. That is just a lens into your business, right? In your business, you have to articulate it in a way that makes sense in a very quick way. And when you know how to communicate your value, and I think that's one of the biggest problems I see in the lower middle market is the visibility of value.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Grant McGaugh, Senior Managing Director at Cornhusker Capital. Grant, how are you today?
I am doing just fine, Andrew. Looking forward to this conversation. Long overdue.
Oh, excellent. Hey, I appreciate you spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. Please tell us a bit about yourself and about Cornhusker Capital.
Well, a little bit about myself. And I grew up in the Midwest in Omaha, Nebraska. Attended the DeVry Institute of Technology in Kansas City, Missouri. At the time I attended, it was called the Missouri Institute of Technology. So I tell everybody I graduated from MIT. Just a little bit better. It gives me a little bit more credibility. I did live in New England from 91 to 98. I worked for a company out there called Control Air Pneumatic Control Systems that got me really utilizing some of my background in technology. And then I transferred down to the Miami, Florida area, which I stayed for 27 years doing information technology. And then, for the last 10 of those years, I was doing healthcare technology specifically. And then for 6.5 years, doing investment banking at Cornhusker Capital. And this brought me all the way full circle back to Omaha, which I'm residing right now to take care of my aging parents.
Well, you look pretty good for about 125 because you just described a lot of different careers packed into the last. Yeah. No. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up at Cornhusker Capital and what they do.
Well, Cornhusker Capital has been around since 2010. Definitely working in the lower middle markets. We've been ranked top 25, top 50. Well, top 25. What was it? Top 50 in 2024. Top 25 in 2025 for the lower middle market in investment banking. We're doing a lot of deals in the technology sector, healthcare technology sector as well. Started by my family with Reginald McGaugh. He has a very extensive background over 25 years in the investment banking space, working for companies like Berkshire Hathaway, which is in Omaha, Nebraska. He also worked for Writer in Miami for a number of years. So he's been involved in a number of major big box deals, I would say, in these 7 to 8 figure worlds and what he's done. So me and him began to collaborate. He started a business in 2010 and I started working with him about 5 or 6 years ago because we saw a mutual interest in technology. We closed a number of different deals in that world, which led us to say, hey, why don't we bring you on more or less, as our subject matter expert from a technology lens. A lot of times in investment banking, they're all talking finance, but when you bring someone in that truly understands the business that the client is in, they really gravitate to that. They lean in, so to speak, when they say, "Oh, you talk my language, you speak tech." I like that, So I let Cornhusker kind of speak, or Reginald, who was the CEO, speak to the finance. He does the investment thesis. He'll bring everything full circle. He'll take everything through the deal structures. We work a lot of family offices throughout the U.S. and in the world, depending on where they need to be located. Obviously, some private equity firms and some VC. And that type of thing. But we've done very, very well in the space. People know who we are. So when we bring people to the capital markets, they're ready. So we're not bringing things to market that aren't ready. There's a lot of times people think they're ready and they haven't done their due diligence to say, hey, you're just going to have to do this. You either do it now or you're going to do it in front of a client. Which one do you really want to do? Or just a potential investor. And they're like, oh, yeah, we want to get it done right the first time. So we pride ourselves on that.
So you're the connective link between the banking world and the tech world, and that's got to be comforting for them. So it's not just numbers and banking lingo across the table. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. What are the most common problems you're solving for your clients?
The biggest thing is a lot of times is valuation, I would say. You really don't know what you're worth until you put it on the market. Or you think of it in the real estate world, right? Yeah, you can kind of get some competitive analysis. You might see what they call comps in the area, like to give you the kind of a general idea what the house may be worth. But until it's actually gone through the process, and of course, it's only value is in the eye of the beholder, right? Right. So we have to help our clients understand what the value of the business is in the eyes of the capital markets. And we'll definitely take a look at what the current rates are as far as current numbers, I to say, are, what the business is generating, what the multiples could be. So we do that through a free investment thesis. A lot of people charge for these type of things. We have found that it's more valuable to do a real fine-tuned investment thesis with our clients up front to let them know, hey, your business is going to be worth X within this range. Of course, as we go through the due diligence, again, as I said earlier, it's going to be in the eye of the beholder. But this will at least get people interested in taking a look, right? Let's get underneath the cover. Let's go ahead and take a look at the fine tune of this engine, which you really got here, right? So we do that for our clients at no cost. Then we start getting into what the engagement would look like, right? And I think because we do that, we gain credibility in the market right away. They need to understand my business, I see it is worth 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, whatever it may be, right? But if someone comes to tell you up front, oh yeah, we've looked at some other things and it's probably worth, 40 million, like, but what's that based off of? What is the criteria? What are the facts behind that that's supporting that kind of evaluation? Because if it's not geared in any kind of factual information, it's worthless. So, and again, it's not going to be worth anything until somebody makes you an offer, right? Exactly what it's worth, right?
Of course, I guess it has to be hard. You have to talk in broad strokes until they give you access to the books and really get granular with what's been going on, coming and going, financial forensics, if you will. And that involves a lot of trust. That's not a free conversation.
No, and we do that. That's what we'll do. Right in our initial discussion call, we first understand what is the business? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to do a capital raise? Are we talking about a M&A world for a majority and minority recap? Are we looking for an exit strategy? Or we're looking all three over time? But we don't do what we call sprints with our clients. We do full-on marathons. We have long-term clients that have been in our books for maybe 10 years or so. Matter of fact, one of our largest clients today we had worked with back in, the 2012 period. We ended up doing a 7-figure deal with that client. We even did a second bite at the apple with that client because they trust us. And to your point, we get into the financials kind of early. Like, look, we're going to do a free investment thesis with you. You're going to send us your 2 years of financials, what you got. They don't need to be tax audited, but let's take a look what you've got for the last couple of years. Based on that, we have a formula that we use because we know pretty much what the capital markets look at. We can, ideally, I hate to say it, but Reginald's pretty good when he says the company is worth X. Typically, after we do all the different Jerry actions and you get some IOIs and some LOIs, it is pretty close to that number. And some people don't like that initial number. Like, no, I think it's worth more. Like, well, I think it's worth about this. But you can have your opinion. But again, the opinions aren't worth much. You can't write checks with opinions. So,
No, and we have such a volatile economy at the moment that the valuation of a company or what somebody else is willing to pay has to vary kind of wildly with what's going on.
Yeah. In this environment now, I call it the musical chairs. It's just what was word because of the tariffs will affect and impact many companies differently.
Of course.
For someone else, this is a boom. Like, this is wonderful. This is great. I'm gonna actually triple growth because of what is coming down the pipe. Someone else just says, I'm losing my entire, income base because I depended on some of these foreign entities and I can't afford that. Their price hikes are just putting me under and I can't compete against competition. So it's a variation of what that's going to look like. It depends on where you sit in relation to the market that you're looking to penetrate.
What differentiates Cornhusker Capital? What makes you guys stand out among your competitors?
I think the major thing is who we are, people wise. People like doing business with people that overused term, but it's true, know, like, and trust. You have to establish trust immediately in any kind of financial transaction because money is associated with emotion. There's a lot of hard emotions there, right? And am I on the outside of the huddle? Am I inside the huddle? I always like to use football terms, right? Right. So if you're outside the huddle, you could be on the other side of the ball. And if you don't know that in as you start to evaluate partnerships with, let's just say, an investment banking firm, like, who are these people? Now we got, Cornhusker Capital, right? And people like that because of, the football team, Nebraska Cornhuskers, blah, 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 in the West. And then we work through our credibility with finance deals we've done, talking about it from the technical aspects of what I've done over 25 years, 27 years of doing this business. So I understand what they're doing. I already understand pretty much whether it's an AI generated type application, it's an ML machine learning type application, something nuanced in the world. Say, hey, I do understand what you've got. You've got some kind of application that you've built. You built a platform, right? That's valuable to the industry that you're looking to penetrate. When you convey true knowledge and expertise, people begin to like, okay, this guy does understand what's happening. So I think our true differentiator is our expertise in healthcare, technology, and finance.
Hey, again, bridging the information and perspective gap that's invaluable. The fact that your tech background means that they know you didn't just do a day or two of research to speak the right terms, that you actually know what you're talking about. That has to put some bedrock under the feet pretty early in the conversation.
Well, you got in an AI generated world, you can get information easily. I mean, it doesn't take much, but it's two dimensional as far as I'm concerned. What I mean, you get some, it's like you're looking out at a blue ocean, right? But you don't know how deep it is.
No.
Right? Right. How deep is it? So I bring 27 years of depth in what I'm talking about. Right. So I understand what it is. I would use an AI engine for certain things just to craft my communication, but I truly have lived this experience for over 27 years. Same thing on the finance world. We've lived this world for over 15 plus years as Cornhusker Capital, and then another 10 to 15 years even before that. So we could usually tell, and we don't really, bring people to market until we've vetted them. This is what really differentiates us because one of our true clients is our investor pool. And so when they see something from Cornhusker Capital, they know it's already been, looked at. The due diligence has already been done. The numbers match up. They usually send to us, and this is what our clients like. And they come to us, it's like, look, we've already got whatever, maybe it's 10, 20, 100 investor pools that come and say, look, Grant, we need this. We're looking for this type of company that has these kinds of multiples, these kinds of numbers, with this is their EBITDA in this space. If you've got them, send them our way. So we kind of already know what the criteria is. Now we've got to really do the due diligence with our client to like, all right, let's make sure these numbers are real because they're going to do a forensic analysis because you're not going to get a deal done without it. So let's do it early. We already know what it's going to look like on the other side. And we do get into hard discussions with our clients because they've worked hard for their business. They've been building it for a number of years. So when we give them advice, we try to give them factual knowledge. It's not our opinion. Here are the facts that supports what we're talking about. Now it could change. No one's, has a crystal ball on things, but they respect that. because we're giving them 3, 4 different takes and looks at the apple. This is going to be a marathon. No one gets deals done in 90 days. Typically, you're talking 3 to 9 to a year, depending on what it is that you're trying to do, right? But we're into the what I call the peak season of the investment banking world. The spring, people just like, all right, let's rip off the band-aids. Let's go out here. Let's take a look at what we can do.
I assume that the faster a person wants to make a deal, the faster the value drops because there's a sense of urgency on the other end of the equation, and people can smell that kind of blood in the water. As you said, money is emotion. On one side, you have somebody who's built a business through their whole life and has a perception of what it's worth, and on the other side, somebody knows, oh, they want to get out. We can steal this company.
Yeah. Yeah. And they got to fit the portfolio, right? So that's another, you have to be a good fit. Most of these are either could be a roll up or they're looking like, hey, I've already got a hardware infrastructure business. I've already got maybe a software engineering platform, but I don't have geospatial, let's just say, within that book of business. And my major client is in the aviation industry, let's say. So if we can find a company, and that's what people are starting to find out, it's a lot easier to buy an existing business, a business, existing book of business than to build it from the scratch, right? So if you've got a fine-tuned engine, why not buy that instead of trying to build it? And it takes time to build out that brand. So we help companies and clients all the way around the full circle get the right fit. So we have win-win-win deals.
Excellent, excellent. Switch gears for a second. The pandemic was a nightmare for some people and huge opportunity for others. I know there were a lot of acquisitions of companies that struggled to survive. Tell me about what that time period looked like for Cornhusker Capital.
You talk these numbers, but we had some of our biggest transactions during that time for a lot of reasons. A lot of them because they're acquisitions. There was just a lot of consolidation going on. And people had to pivot. They had to start thinking like, hey, this is a huge change in business. In my clientele base and my client that supports the business is going through changes. So it's changes everywhere. How can we partner? What does this look like? So we were able to get, 6, 7, 8-figure deals done during that time period. That now it's leading up to something different. So it started to settle out, after 22 to 25. People start like, where we're going to live. We're going into a new election cycle. What is this going to look? Every time these things happen, it changes the economic landscape because, as we said earlier, money is a lot of times is tied to emotion. People get emotional about this, and they need to know where do I invest my time and my money into to get a calculated return on invested capital. What does that look like in in a musical chairs scenario, right? Right. So going back to answer your question directly, the pandemic was a good time for Cornhusker Capital. I think this time now and then the Trump tariff time period will also be a good time for Cornhusker Capital.
Well, hey, I assumed that tumultuous times, people need to sell their businesses. In booming times, they want to sell their businesses. And on the other end of the equation, there's always investors looking to make more. So you guys are positioned well to ride out any sort of roller coasters in the economy.
Yeah, we're made for that. So we don't, we just understand who do we target as far as the audience, depending, because in any cycle, there are people that are losing money and there are people that are winning money. And I said that even earlier because of the tariff scenarios. You just got to know who does this really benefit? And what do they need to continue to benefit in this particular cycle? And to your point, the people that aren't mainly benefiting, maybe it's, what, now it's time to partner or it's time to get out. You know what? I'm done. I'm just done. I need somebody to help me to exit this business. So all of those scenarios are prime prospects for us at Cornhusker.
Gotcha. All right, put on your marketing hat for a second. What role has content played in the growth of Cornhusker Capital? How have you been telling your story?
Well, Andrew, that's exactly what I'm doing right here, right? It's about getting the story out. We have done an excellent job. And I would say we were masters at email marketing. And we have found that, I do a lot of social selling myself, but in the capital markets and investment banking, because again, money is an emotional thing. We want to get one-on-one on with decision makers, typically the owner of the company, the founder of the company. And we found that email is the best way of doing that. But they are always going to look you up, search in social. Who are you? And are you credible? So but we've done enough around making sure that people see us, especially Axel has done a great job at showcasing what Cornhusker does on a quarterly basis. It's given us a lot of credibility here in the last year or so. And I think that has really ratcheted up the business. So right now we're just getting a lot of we don't have enough time to talk to everybody. So we're really looking at who we need to talk to. And then we like to educate. And that's what you're going to see more and more of this coming out from Cornhusker Capital. We want to educate our business owners, especially small business owners, or what to truly look at. People are like, oh, we're going to make this pitch deck. Everybody wants to run out and make pitch deck. And because I have this great pitch deck, I'm going to get investors to invest in me or buy what I have. Well, investors don't buy pitch decks. Let me just be clear. I'm going to put that out there. Grant McGaugh said investors don't buy pitch decks. That is just a lens into your business, right? And your business, you have to articulate it in a way that makes sense in a very quick way, because again, volume, that just got a lot of volume. But if you got it, when you know how to communicate your value, and I think that's one of the biggest problems I see in the lower middle market is the visibility of value. Your value is not visible, and because it's not visible, people pass you by. So I want to work more on that. We're gonna start doing a lot more with content. I love what We Level is doing, and you understand that content is king in these years of digital marketing.
Hey, thank you for the pitch. I appreciate it. All right. Look ahead a year from now. What are some things you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally?
I'm going to be celebrating our new advancement into the USVI, the United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix. You'll see that Cornhusker Capital is the investment banking arm of what we call SEDI case, SEDICASE. That is the St. Croix Economic Development Initiative in the Caribbean American single economy. There was new legislation that was passed by the islands by Governor Albert Bryant. He did this back in November. It's an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, in which now the U.S. banking system can be in partnership with CARICOM, which is the Caribbean EU. So all the different Caribbean islands, we never were at that table. Now we can be at the table. Not only we can be at the table, we're establishing a financial center out of USVI, which we're going to have the merchant bank. We're going to have trading platforms, and we're going to have the investment banking arm to actually be the stability of the U.S. dollar within the Caribbean. That's never happened before. So we're bringing it full circle. We're doing research on Alexander Hamilton, who was kind of the father of the American banking system. A lot of people may not realize that or know that about him. And he wasn't born in St. Croix, but he actually became known as St. Croix. He was an adult out of St. Croix before he went to the United States. So there's different laws in the USVI that a lot of people don't realize. It's called the third border. And if you are incorporated there, you only pay 10% in federal taxes. So there's a huge incentive to clear different types of deal structures in the USVI that makes everybody a win-win happy camper when it comes to deal flow.
I did not know that about Alexander Hamilton. I imagine he might not have believed you if you told him back in the day how much his name would be worth these days.
That's right.
And I also assume that the winters are a little easier in St. Croix than they are in Nebraska.
Little bit. You know that I'll be down there, after the spring and summer has passed and it starts to get about below zero, I'll be jetting down to St. Croix. So we're building out our investment banking business in St. Croix. So you'll see us in St. Croix, Miami, and Omaha, and also Chicago.
Excellent. Well, if we end up doing business together, we may have to sign paperwork in St. Croix. I may have to mandate that.
No problem.
All right, please tell us, what's your URL? Where can people find Cornhusker Capital, and what social media outlets do you use as well?
Well, ours is simple. Now, I don't know too many people that had never heard of the Cornhusker, the Nebraska Cornhusker, but if you write Cornhusker Capital, you can even search Cornhusker Capital, going to come up, or you go to cornhuskercapital.com. We're going to come right up. You can send me an email at grant@cornhuskercapital.com, and I will respond directly to you. Love to have conversations. Again, our key differentiator is that we do not charge for an investment thesis. And this is a detailed investment thesis that typically firms you'll charge you anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 for. We don't do that because we have found it to not to be valuable. Because someone gives you an investment thesis and gives you a number behind it, it's absolutely worthless until you take it out to capital market world and see exactly what it is that you can be your company is worth. And you've got to do your own due diligence internally to understand what that valuation looks like. And then, and only then, can you get a deal that's going to satisfy everybody.
Excellent. And please, what social media outlets do you use as well?
Yeah, you can see us on LinkedIn. We're definitely present on LinkedIn. Typically, that's where you're going to find us on LinkedIn. Don't have a big presence on, Facebook. You see a little bit of us on X, but I think definitely LinkedIn, you'll find us on social media.
Excellent. Grant McGaugh, thank you so much for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. All the best to you and yours, and continued success at Cornhusker Capital.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Be well.